Welcome to you all once again. We are back online, Gunjur News Online, 24th of July 2022, and Sunday today. And the time in the Gambia is about nearly 25 past 6 o'clock, and in the UK in Leeds it's 25 past 7 o'clock. And once again, we have a very interesting program for you today with one of the intellectual giants and the finest of our Gambian brothers. And but before we go into the program today, we have a young man, in the name of Bunama Jata, a young community activist, very active, who used ingenuity to serve his community, with Elan, for that being the case. Unfortunately, the young man who is a cousin of mine and Gunjur Online and have died, about nearly 30 minutes ago, about nearly 30 to 1 hour ago. This is a sad day for Gunjur, because the young man has selflessly give himself to serving his community at all areas in Gunjur. So tribute to him, and we will give him a befitting tribute, when we settle down and see how it goes. It just happened about nearly 1 hour ago, and the story is developing, and Gunjur Online's on Facebook page will give you all the necessary information that you will know or you will require about the demise of a very fantastic young man, Bunama Jata. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Once again, we are back, Gunjur Online. We have our one of Gambia's finest, who wrote a book, and it's just by chance that I came across this book, for some reason, through a family friend. And I've never heard about this book, but I got hooked to the book when I started reading it. In terms of policy implication, this book is one of the best so far, since young people like me read. And that's what we are going to discuss today, because I think such fantastic works need to be unearthed, so that young people can access to the policy debates and ideas, so that we can create ideas, marketplace of ideas, and talk about policies in terms of to see what we can do together to move that country. And it's only ideas, that can only carry that country forward. And the author of this book, when we found out, is Mr. Benjamin Robert. He insisted me to call him Ben, but I will use Sir most of the time, to really acknowledge the fantastic work that he did in this book. Mr. Benjamin Robert, welcome to Dialogue on Youth in Youth Show on Gunjur Online or Gunjur News Online. We are very humbled, to have you here, to dignify us, with your presence here. Just a matter of telephone call and few texts sent, and you accept this offer. Is a pleasure on behalf of Gunjur Online and our viewers across the world, the young and the youth and the elderly. Welcome to Gunjur Online, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scattred, Janneh. It's my pleasure to be on your forum.
Yes, thank you, sir. We have to acknowledge this book. Definitely, I have to bring you here so that we can discuss this book, because the books, it needs to come out, so that people can know, the youths can know. Most of them are hungry to read. But it gives in the policy analysis, in the tour de force, historical tour de force of Gambian political economic development, which is fantastic. And such arguments are lacking. So that's why I'm really happy to have you here. Somebody who has consummate abilities in investment and export promotion, business development, institutional and corporate banking, risk management, credit analysis. You can go on and go on, but I don't want to jump ship and tell people who you are. If you can tell our viewers, who you are, and series of things that you've done and possibly your qualifications. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm sure there are other more pertinent and interesting issues that would be coming from you by way of questions. So in terms of giving an overview of myself, I'm not doing in terms of the accolade. My name is Benjamin, indicated a Ghana by birth of nationality. Have served the private sector, starting with the United States of America. When I just graduated, I worked with the group. I worked with Freddie Mac or Federal Housing Loan Mortgage Corporation. As the SPP analyst, first time to Group as accounts payable. TAC when I graduated from university. Came back home, for a month. Went to the UK, did my master's, my first degree in the United States of America, Missouri Western State University. Went to the University of Manchester, did my first master's. It was an MA in Industrial Strategy and Trade Policy. Then I was chance was doing a program in Singapore and Malaysia, and whilst there, I was offered a scholarship, to pursue my PhD in University of Singapore. Singapore on the scholarship program. Unfortunately, I wanted to specialize in transportation economics. They didn't have programs, so I ended up doing a second master's in economic development, but specializing in regional trade agreements. In Singapore, it's a little bit different from the Western education. You have to be published before you're given a degree. So I have my full application in international trade. It was a sort of looked at the China-Asian free trade area at the moment. At the time, this was in around 2002. So ultimately, in 2003, I came back home. Was interviewed, went to Ghana, worked with Ghana. At the time, we were looking at the possibility of establishing a stock market in the Gambia. That was the reason I went to Ghana. Had a stint of about a year in Ghana, came to the Gambia, working with Data Bank Securities Limited. When I realized that the stock market aspects were not going to come through, I decided to, join Standard Bank. So I spent 6 years at the bank, and in different positions: chief dealer, credit analyst, relationship manager, head of credit, and ultimately associate director. And left and went to work as the director for business and export development. I was there for under 2 years. Was taken to the GT institution as Director General of the Gambia Tourism Board. I was there for 2.5 years and appointed as Minister of Tourism and Culture in 2014, September. And ultimately, I started the capacity until February of 2017, resulting from the outcome of 2016 elections. Now, I'm a freelance consultant. I've consulted with a number of organizations, the Ministry of Finance, I'm the one who worked lately at Finance, the Ministry of Finance, under the PPP, public-private partnership. We did the capital markets bill, which I believe has been passed at the level of the National Assembly, and ultimately now working on formality to what could be done with the central, with the capital markets. It is at the level of the central bank. So I've done some consulting with the Ministry of Finance, Fisheries, GIZ, United Nations Environmental Program, and I'm now as well, and that is an extracurricular activity for me, a passion. So in a nutshell, this is Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And I'm just gapping here. The experience. The series of qualifications. You have to be a self-starter and work extremely hard. To achieve all these things. Anyway, I have a post that was shared, and they said, on the Google, they said, a young man that walked his way to the top through continuous learning and hard work. And there's the testimony of that, is series of qualifications and experiences that you've achieved. Ben, what motivates you to go in for, many Gambians, when they get the first degree, and then, a master's will most of the time be the end of it, and they feel they are highly educated, but, you went from one course to the other, one qualification to one qualification, and to quench your task, your test for education. What motivates you to keep going on this educational journey to achieve everything that you've achieved?
Well, I mean, education has always been something that I fell in love with, I mean, at quite a young age. Perhaps credit to my uncle and Silver, and perhaps my aunties as well. So I've always found it to be one of the avenues through someone can uplift themselves. Personally, I believe that education is a continuous ongoing process, and education does not stop once one receives his associate's, master's, or PhD degree. It's an ongoing process. Learning is continuous. And we see that for the sciences, we see doctors and nurses and scientists in general having to keep abreast of the literature. Upgrading their knowledge. Staying abreast of issues in terms of their areas of interest. It's the same for me. Actually, from early age in my life. And when I say early age, I'm referring to maybe around the I've always said that one way or the other, two things are going to happen. I'm going to end up in the consultancy field, or I'm going to end up in the in academia. Either or, both of them are avenues through which you keep abreast of learning, because both areas requires that you're on top of your game. And I chose the consultancy arm for now, and that is why I decided to engage in consultancy, because it also helps me to ensure that what I learn, I will not forget, and it also helps me to learn on new things. So that's what it is. It's interest. It actually gets to the point where it's habitual. It's a passion. It's that you like to do. But from the onset, I have seen it as an avenue to really uplift myself in society. And I must say that my parents have contributed a lot to that. From a young age, I recall my mom telling me that I'm poor. It doesn't mean that you have to stay poor. I recall my grandmother always telling me that you can do better than your uncle, because at the time, and this is quite funny. I think I was in Form 2 when my uncle secured a scholarship to go to Oxford. And at the time, I knew about universities, I knew about Cambridge, I knew about Oxford, and I said to myself and my grandmother, man, this guy have set the bar so high, Oxford. That's going to be a tough, achievement to be. And then she looked at me and said, you can do better than your uncle. At the time, I didn't know that actually my uncle was going to Oxford Polytechnic. I thought it was Oxford Uni, but notwithstanding, it's still within the same compass of our institution. So the motivation has always been there. And even my very same uncle is perhaps the person who has aroused my interest in terms of learning, because he used to subscribe a lot to West African Magazine, African Business, and anytime he finished reading those magazines, he throws it to me, and I go through it and read it. And those things really helped me, especially when I went to university. Because things began to now come together. So that is what the interest is. So I have slowed down now, but when I was in government, I traveled a lot at the time. Anytime I travel, I would spend $150 on books.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is inspirational. I think we have to, because the history of this world is about the history of heroes and role models, and you are a role model for younger people, because the fact that you are spending £150 or dollars or whatever on books tells a lot. and maybe this may motivate the numberless of people, especially the youths, that are watching this. The journey, has to be continuous, and there's nothing wrong to invest on education. And one way to do that is to get books. Don't just tell people you're wasting your time by spending all this money on books. And I remember my sisters tell me, what are you doing about all these books around you all the time? So this can be a very, very big motivation to the boarding generations that are coming. Now we can only compete through education. Look at Mr. Ben. He's not rich, it's just that he wanted to get off from where he is to be where he is today. Mr. Robert, this book that you've written, this is not a flattery. I've read a lot of books. Most of them are stories and some issues that has to be around cultures and all those things. But in terms of the policy implications, on Gambia, for a Gambian, and I don't think I've read. I'm not saying they are not there. I've read any book that has a policy implications, dealt with in this book. So anybody, any institution, any government that is serious in terms of developing policies to further Gambia, will read through this book, and learn, your analysis here. And that's why you are here. And I want you to tell us where those who are watching us today, they can have access to this book, whether if it is in Amazon or wherever we can get. I know it's written since 2010. I'm very, very surprised that this book is not all over the place, that every Gambian should be aware of this book. So tell us, if we want to get this book now, where do you think we can go to get this book before we get into the book itself?
Well, the book, the book has been sold at Timbuktu. So Timbuktu is one source that you can get, where you can get the book from. I believe I have some few copies myself, in my library, as well. But Timbuktu is where the book, is sold. I did, upon publication of the book, give complimentary copies to the National Library. So I believe there should be copies there as well. The culture of reading in the Gambia seems to be dying out. Maybe I'm not a young guy, even though I'm not old. I hope that this statement that I just made, that the culture of reading in Gambia is dying out, I hope it's not a true statement, but that is my belief, because
once again, we are reviewing a book, Plight of a Nation, written by Benjamin A. Robert. Ben has gone through series and series of qualifications. Even with his achievement, he kept adding his qualifications, going for education. And education is the greatest equalizer, if you like. In terms of where, no matter what your background is, if you bent on education and educate yourself to any level, you will sit with people who you cannot just believe. You will have the audacity to sit with. That's the magic of education. But he have written a book, and the plight of a nation, and it is befitting, so that we can bring our Gambian brothers who've written books, who ventured into education and achieve a law, and competing in the global space in terms of writing fantastic books, especially books that have policy implications, for our country. If you want this book, you can go to Timbuktu. That's what he's saying now. It's a book shop, named Timbuktu in the Gambia. Those who living in the Gambia can get this book, and the books can be sent to you so that you can read the books, and we can kind of support our own and motivate the culture of reading and writing, so that young people can write our own stories, so that we can analyze and put policies and put our experience together for the future generations to come and read. We don't have to read our stories, our own stories from people's book, all over or outside our country who don't understand the dynamics of our societies. And sometimes they exaggerate it, or sometimes they get it completely wrong. And what this will do, the implication is, if people read it because it's the only written script, they will go into believe it. They will go because that is what is written, unless you have a counter argument. And these counter arguments, written in a book form, or written down, can only come from ourselves. Then we can be proud. So that's the whole purpose of having this. So and Ben has been a tourism minister, briefly and briefly being in finance, and he's been all over the place, and it is befitting to celebrate him. We know the internet is struggling in the Gambia big time, so we hopefully disappointed a little bit, but we are just kind of expecting something like this to happen. This is the raining season, and then we had some issues with the internet even before coming online. So hopefully the internet will be sorted out, and we will have Mr. Ben Robert here back so that we can analyze this book. But for now, as I said, you can order this book, or even if you are not going to read it, get a copy, send it to Gambia University or any other institutions or somebody who is interested in reading, and give them the book so that we can encourage, our young, to venture into reading so that they can compete at any level. Because if people are more read than you in any way, both English and Arabic and all those things, you cannot compete. And unfortunately, everything that we go for and everything that we argue in terms of policies is in English. So you have to understand the dynamics, not only the language, but the policies and everything. Thank you, Ben. Good to have you back. I'm a little bit scared anyway. The internet system in the Gambia is always a problem. Yes, and I'm just talking to our people so that those who are in the diaspora can order this book, or they can buy this book and give it to universities if you are not interested in reading, or you can give it to your young, the people who are interested in reading and they are struggling to get this, because people are just hungry to read sometimes. It's not much anyway. Definitely, I agree with you. I think the reading culture, was it there since, as far as I am concerned, even in our time, the reading culture wasn't embedded. I know the Sukutarians don't it at all. At least Gunjur tribe, but Sukuta no. So, and it's now also it's not there because the kids are focusing on something, and they cannot compete at even local level, moreover international level, without equipping themselves with education, and that can only be achieved through reading and reading and reading and reading. So, Mr. Robert, we will keep reminding people, because I'm going to get my copy from Timbuktu, and share it with people. I hope, our listeners, who are here. We have Musa Sumare here, who said, may Allah grant him Janneh, and all those things, and Michelle Bajo and Awature also. All of him are here, and please share this so that this the show can reach numberless of people, and we can be able to go to Timbuktu to get this book, read it, and equip ourselves, and we can argue with anybody only reading with book when it comes to Gambian policies. And Mr. Ben, in chapter 2 of your book, you talked. I know you've mentioned about the culture and impact of African economic development, and some comprehensive economic development since 1965, or 1975, and all those things, and what we are going to focus more is the economic development under the Second Republic. Anyway, you can feel free to regress back to the Fourth Republic so that we can compare, in essence, and maybe the third Republic. We come to that, but you talk in detail about corruption and its impact on African economic development. Your argument, corruption has become so rampant that in Africa, that is among the first set of word that comes to mind when the continent is mentioned. And we want to bring this home, because we want to confine it to Gambia, as young people and all that. Tell us the impact of indiscriminate corruption in the economic and political development of the Gambia. Give us your thought, let's confine it to Africa. You can reference it from let's confine it to Gambia. You can reference other African countries. Feel free. But the impact of corruption on the economic and political development of the Gambia, help us with that. What do you think? Do you think is the impact, and what corruption have done to that country in terms of our progress, in terms of our development, in terms of institutions, everything, in terms of our homes, our social life? Go ahead, Ben.
Well, the issue of the matter is that as a country, we have not at any point in time undertaken an assessment of the impact of corruption in our economy, be it politically, be it socially, or financially as well. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any study that has been undertaken in this country to assess, the impact of corruption. Actually, there is no point saying that corruption undoubtedly has a negative impact on economic development. And it can affect all facets of a country, from the social, from the economic, from the financial. But we do know that there is indeed corruption, that corruption has existed under the First Republic. Because that was the reason why the military junta at the time, FPRC, undertook to oust a democratically elected government at the time. Now, we do also know that there was corruption during the Second Republic. And perhaps that may be one of the reasons as to why we saw what happened in 2016 happen. I did work for the Second Republic as a minister in the last few years of the Second Republic, as it were. We do know, following the Commission of Inquiry, in terms of what has unfolded and the degree of corruption that obtained, knowingly or unknowingly, at the time. We do know that corruption still continues to exist. If I don't know, I'm not sure if I can mention Third Republic, but I would say under the presidency of Adama Barrow, there is widespread corruption. Actually, I've had a number of people say that during the Second Republic, corruption was not as bad as it was during the time of the presidency of Adama Barrow, because during the time of the Second Republic, it was only my former boss, President Yahya Jammeh, who was the one that was, enjoying, the loot, whereas most other people who were found in his government were apprehensive in terms of engaging in corruptive practices. Not that they weren't, but that they were apprehensive because of the consequences and what could eventually unfold. Now, in the present presidency, in the present administration, we do know that corruption is rampant, it's right across the board. People don't hide it. You see it. Now, I am an analyst and I endeavor to be a professional. Now, quantifying the degree of corruption and being able to put a number in terms of value would be difficult, but we do know that it exists. And corruption takes a number of forms. We need to understand this. For the most part in the country, when we talk of corruption, people are thinking of someone stealing and doing away with millions of dollars, pounds, or euros. That is not corruption. Nepotism is corruption. Yeah, all the isms have aspects of corruption in it. Appointing someone, favoritism, all of these things are corruption. Putting places, let me put it this way: putting round pipes in square holes. All of those things are corruption. Yeah. So there is a cost, and a substantial one. At that, we see what is happening in the Gambia. We are currently in the rainy season. What is happening right now? You see streets overflooded, compounds overflooded. all kinds of issues, all kinds of health challenges. These are all issues, relating to corruption. Monies that should have been spent on the construction of roads with drainage systems not being put in place because somebody has asked for a kickback, and therefore that could not happen, and therefore you end up having all these runoff water and all these health challenges, whatever it is. All those things are impacts of corruption. So we as a country have really endeavored to measure, to ascertain the degree of corruption in this country by putting a number to it. But then it is costing us as a country dearly. I saw the last time President Barrow came on TV and given a press conference, or maybe he had traveled, he came back and was being interviewed. And he was told, he said that he was disappointed because after the assessment, in terms of the road construction going on for the OIC, they've come to realize that only 1% of the works has been completed. Now, that is unbelievable. That is laughable, But it just goes to show you challenges that we are confronted with as a nation as long as corruption is concerned. Corruption has been caught in Africa. It's not only Africa. Corruption has caught other parts of the world as well. Southeast Asia, Southern Asia. You name it. But corruption is indeed a cost, and it has been costing us severely, especially in Africa.
Yeah, once again, go ahead, Mr. Ben.
Yes, that's pretty much my take on the matter regarding corruption. Should something be done about corruption? Yes, because the fact of the matter is, if we don't as a nation, we're not going to move a bit. It's disheartening. It is disheartening that whether it's the First Republic, whether it's the Second Republic, whether it's the administration of President Barrow, most of the people who have sat in positions of responsibility, whether they are ministers, whether they are heads of institutions, departments, these are all people who are educated. They're all people. Maybe now, with the creation of the Gambian University, we have most people or some people graduating from the University of the Gambia. But prior to that, my age group, I'm sure your age group as well, most of us had education. So most of us had the opportunity, even after schooling, to work in organizations in the Western world, and we've seen best practice administration. But what do we do when we come back to our countries? It is as if all the education that we have had, all the opportunities that we have had by way of exposure and experience, all the back seat, and we go back to business as usual in Gambia. The very people who are educated, the very people who should lead by example and give those who have not had the opportunity to go abroad to study or to have had the exposure that they had in terms of experience, to sort of lead by example so that they can learn what is best practice. We are the same people who turn around and administer in manners that is totally in opposite to the opportunities that we have had in terms of education and experience in the Western world. And that is why some people say the people who have failed Africa, not those who have not had the opportunity, education, job experience, but those who are educated and those who should know better are the people who have failed Africa, and Gambia included.
Yeah, Mr. It is sad that those who've been in the West and get their education here, even at local level, the moment you step in UK, for example, you fall in when you have a queue on the bus, at the bus station and all those things. Nobody just tell you what to do, what not to do, and you go to work on time. Then why is corruption so embedded into the fabric of our lives as Africans or as a country? If I want to confine it to Gambia, and because I saw some of you said, you were analyzing the least developed and the more developed countries. You said in the more developed countries, provision for check and balances have made corruption intolerable, shameful, and punishable. The opposite can be said on our side, because we celebrate those who are stealing our money indiscriminately. The families, will come and support, and probably people are going to give you all the praise and prayers because you are stealing our money in essence. And sometimes we know, these people are stealing our money. And that brings me to one of your points. You say Africans are just too busy battling with escaping from poverty rather than bothering with unseating the condition necessary and sufficient for corruption. Are we all in this together, even the common people who are battling? Is it because of, deliberately politicians are putting us into poverty or leaving us in our poverty so that we can be too busy doing something else, while the educated elites and politicians just, scramble and steal everything, but why Africa? Why Africa? Why is it embedded there in our lives? Is it something to do with culture? Because you talk about the culture and the impact of culture in African economic development. Go ahead, Mr. Robert.
No, I think a couple of points. I spoke about, or I wrote on culture and its impact on economic development in the same book. And I think the issue of corruption in Africa is primarily as a result of two things. One, I think poverty. Yeah, that is not to say poverty is a justification for, for corruption. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Truth be told, I came, from a very humble background. But there were certain values that were instilled in me, and those values are quite important when it comes to matters of corruption. What I wrote in the book in terms of culture and its impact on economic development, on chapter 1, I said that traditional African culture, or African culture in general, has a sense of certain values, sense of community, sense of family, sense of unity, human rights, wisdom, morality, marriage, and social order. Yeah, there is no one, and let me contextualize it to the case of Gambia. Yeah, I believe personally that in any family that you go to in the Gambia, yeah, and you see the way life is conducted on a daily basis, yeah, I can speak authoritatively for the time that we were children coming up. I'm sure it may be the same for you. Yeah, you see, the family is where everything begins. Values are taught at a very young age. There is a saying that you mold children when they are moldable. Yeah, when they are young, that is when you instill values in them. If you don't instill some of these values in them, at a later age, it becomes very difficult to do so. As individuals, we have to have a moral compass. We have to have certain value sets that we live by. Those things can only be instilled in us by our parents. The challenge with modern Gambia is that parents have stopped parenting. Parents have stopped parenting. Now, if we go back to our generation, we should know better. Yeah, I'm 54. So if I talk about my generation, you can have a good idea in terms of what I'm talking about. But the generation after,
yeah, once again, we have discussing a book and serializing a book called The Plight of a Nation, written by Benjamin A. Roberts. This is a fantastic book if you want to know policies and if you want to know the historical tour de force, the development, the hierarchy of different policies that were put forward, what their shortcomings were, where did they make achievements here and there from 1965 to 2020, Vision 2020. This is a deep analysis and the culture and how agricultural, what are the shortcomings and what can we do in terms of strategy to amplify our productions, to make that country institutionally strong so that we can develop the nation. I think it's so important, because, it's not all the time the storybooks, yes, they are entertaining and reading is reading, but we need to get into the nitty-gritty of, of this book. We need to understand this book. We need to equip ourselves, our policy arguments, so that we don't go to online medias and talk empty. I mean, insulting and all those things, because we are bereft of ideas. And this book will give you the historical developments of different policies from the First Republic to Second Republic up to 2020, Vision 2020 that we are going to come to, and some of the shortcomings and the implications that are in the. So please, let's order this book. Get the book from Timbuktu in the Gambia, and you can read it, slowly. It has to go into school so that they can have a post-mortem into this book and understand it. But anybody who is interested in Gambia, you don't confine yourself to only rhetorics. Equip yourself with ideas, and you will be in a better position. And you will not just reduce yourself, to talking for the sake of talking, but you will be authoritatively talk with ideas in order to see what went wrong, what policies are the shortcomings of policies, and all those things. And maybe if young people are fully equipped with what is the content of this book, probably we will be in the position to tell our politicians, this is what you need to do, this is what you don't need to do. They don't have to just come and disk things on us, because we are equipped with this. Mr. Robert, go ahead where you stopped in terms of family values and how parenting has failed in the Gambia, and that has a triple effect on everything, our institution, our government, how we do everything. Go ahead. Yeah, well, once again, that's what we are discussing, about this book. It is so important to get the book, and I've read it already, and even though I've read it, I'm just going to support, Ben, because not he needs money from me. Probably he get a lot of money more than me because of the caliber of his education and his position that he manned. But just to support, to encourage the younger people to also put pens on paper, so that we can write our own stories. We can write the failings of our own and our own policies, and we can just disk in to see what went wrong for this country, a small country, for since 1965, is struggling with to get it right in terms of policies, or because policies are just being described to us and we buy it. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of culture, most Gambians are cultured. I think the issue is the issue of poverty. As I said earlier, poverty is no justification to engage in corruptive practices. But the challenge may be that people are in a hurry to be successful. People are not worried in terms of being successful, going through the right channel. I mean, people have become unconcerned in terms of how they accumulate, wealth, or how they become successful. It has now become a matter of by any means necessary, and this is the issue. This is the challenge, and it speaks to the point that you made earlier, and that is, we as a nation celebrate people who become successful, irrespective of how they have become successful. We do not punish people who are corrupt. To the contrary, some people even try to defend the indefensible. And this has led to some sort of a moral decay and moral decadence in our society. And this is the issue. I mean, this is what we need to look at as a nation. And it is unfortunate that our society has become one in which people don't want, just want to be successful, and they would engage in any form of activity to become successful, irrespective of whether it is moral or it is immoral. There is no there's no regard, if you will, in terms of what other people think, and this is the challenge. Until we begin as a society, to punish and frown upon some of these illicit means of accumulating wealth or becoming successful, then we would continue to run into challenges. And the other thing too, which I believe is one of the reasons why people don't care too much, in terms of fast tracking their success, is because we don't value education, and that is a reality in this country. We do not value education. And here I would just like to speak on our neighbor Senegal. We see what is happening in that country. Not that Senegalese are more intelligent than Gambians, but the fact of the matter is the average Senegalese values education. The average Senegalese values education. They know the importance of education. Now, don't get me wrong, and I have made this argument time and time and again. One does not have to be educated, one does not have to have a full education to become successful. I can quote a number of successful businessmen in this country who were educated. I'm the first to quote people like Sankum Silla. When I was a banker at Standard Chartered Bank, this was a gentleman that I have sat with because I used to manage his account. And it is unbelievable. But these are people who are able to achieve things that even the educated were not able to achieve. These are people who had, who were business savvy. These were people who valued hard work. These were people who were not born into riches, but have worked to become successful. We as a country, especially among the younger ones, we want to be successful by any means necessary, whether it is moral or whether it is immoral, legal or illegal. Everybody wants to, and it is sad. It is sad. And until we begin as a country, to value things like education, to uphold moral standards, until we begin to do these things, it's going to be a challenge for us as a nation. That's just the reality. Let's look at our political landscape. Who are the people vying for positions of power? Let's look at the electorate. Who do they elect into office? It is us as the challenges that we have as a country. And corruption is a major challenge in this country. Corruption is a major, major, major challenge. You live in the West. You know that in the Western world, who are the people who vie for offices? You tell me, if I am someone who is renting, does not have a car, and I opt for office and I win, and I become elected into office, whatever office it is, what would be my first and primary preoccupation? Wouldn't it be to get a car, build a house?
To get a house and a car, yes, definitely.
Exactly. To provide for your family. So, we need to wake up as a nation. We need to wake up. We need to wake up as a nation. Yeah, and as I said, look, education is important. I decided to pursue education for good reason. Yeah, but if you do not have the opportunity to education, God has given you 5 common senses. Yeah, yes, it is not common, but some of these basic things, I think we should begin to appreciate some of these basic things. Let the electorate should hold people to account. It is important. We elect people in offices instead of them bettering our lives worsen, and yet still, when re-election comes, we equally elect them again into office. Something has gone fundamentally wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Greetings to Moro Kamara, and it's a good evening, and my own sister Fatou Sise. Greetings to you all. Please share this so that it can reach out to people, especially the younger generation, and make a commitment here to get a copy of this book. Either you read it yourself, or you give it to somebody who is interested in reading, or donate it to higher education schools in the Gambia so that people can read this book, because, you you will not going to be bamboozled by politicians if you are equipped with some of the arguments in this book, and some of the policies are so skeletal. I'm using your word, Ben, in about Vision 2020, you say skeletal. We are going to come to that anyway. And why did you say that? And some of the policies that they come and bombard you with without any justification, but you just immerse yourself into it because you don't understand the implications and the policy implications, how things work, and the impossibility of some of these things that they come and tell you without the costings and all those things. So this book is going to make you a better person in terms of to understand yourself and to understand your culture. I'm going to get one. I have one already, but since it's in Timbuktu, I will play to support our own. So that this is not because Mr. Robert wants my money, just because I want to encourage our own, so that he can be a role model, so that somebody somewhere can see and say, if he write a book, I can also write a book. We can tell our own story. Ben, you said economic development must first start with the coming to terms with the problem that besets Africa. And this surprisingly has proved elusive for African leaders, simply because they do not have a thorough understanding of the problems confronting Africa. Don't you think they don't understand? Can you elaborate all these things, what you mean? Because, we have very intelligent people, and for some reason, they just, because, I listened to Dominic Mendy yesterday, Kerifatu, about 2 days ago, and he's saying people underrate Yaya Janneh, but he's very, very, very smart, very educated. That's why we miss a lot, because of our underration or denigration of him when he came newly. So these leaders are very, very, some of them are very intelligent but do they not understand the problems confronting Africa? Go ahead, Ben.
Well, introduction in terms of the economic development challenges confronting Africa and the leadership seemingly not understanding the issues that beset us is primarily because of the results that Africa over time has managed in terms of bringing economic development to its citizenry. Look, Africa started gaining independence in the 60s. I believe starting with Ghana and going through Senegal, Mali, Guinea-Conakry, you name it. Now, since 1960 to date, that's over, 60 years ago. Now, 60 years ago, since we started having independence, you tell me one sub-Saharan African country that has managed economic development apart from Rwanda, and to some extent maybe South Africa. Yeah.
No.
So it's a challenge, and I even hesitate to mention Rwanda because Rwanda is just what 25 years ago.
Yes.
So my position that either the African leadership do not understand the challenges that beset us and therefore cannot proffer solutions to those challenges with the objective of providing economic development for the citizens of Africa is based on the simple fact that for over 60 years, or around about 60 years, African leaders have not been able to provide a citizenry the economic development they have yearned for. Yeah, this is reality, socially, politically, and economically. Actually, some African countries are worse off since independence compared to today.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can go in terms of the case of the Gambia. When the Gambia had independence, its foreign exchange reserves were more than that of Singapore. Today, let's compare the Gambia to Singapore.
No, you
where
don't.
is Singapore and where is Gambia? Are they comparable?
No, you can't. You don't do that.
Yes. So my view and my point that African leaders are not able to provide solutions to the issues that beset Africa and its citizens is one based on their performance and their track record. The track record is nothing to boast about. It's nothing to go to the bank about. The track record is poor. That is the reality. If you look at infrastructural development in Africa, some of them, most of them, when they actually got independence. You know, we people focus so much on infrastructural development, roads, I mean, the skyline, you know, I mean, name it. But the most important thing is welfare. Welfare is what is the most important thing in terms of providing economic development for your people. Are your people educated? Yeah, are people able to provide for their families 3 meals a day?
No.
Are people able to have employment, to change employment from one place to another? Are people able to enjoy a holiday out of life? Yeah, or every year, once every year. You know, these are the things that we look at in saying that yes, there has been improvement in the welfare of people. And the reality is, most African countries cannot say that they have been able, their leadership have been able to provide this to its citizenry. Yeah. Now, my argument is this. If we want to develop, there are guidelines that we have to follow. There are hard decisions that have to be made. Plans have to be put in place, and those plans have to be pursued with passion, with interest, and without any compromise. Until we're able to do that, we will continue to struggle as a nation and as a continent, because we proffer developmental plans. But those same developmental plans we do not follow, we do not monitor, we do not evaluate. So how can we move forward?
No, you can't. You can't.
We cannot move forward. And for the most part, I tell people, economic development is about welfare improvement. The fact that economic development is about welfare improvement, we can aggregate it, equally can we disaggregate it. I can take myself as an example and say that if I want to develop as an individual, there are certain things that I must do, and I must assess and evaluate myself year in, year out for me to achieve better welfare than I'm currently enjoying. It is the same thing at the level of the state, but perhaps multiplied by 3 million in terms of the population, or the population of this country. I'm sure it's about 2.4, 2.5 million. But just to give you an example. So as
yeah, once again, greetings to all our viewers all over the world. I have my brother Lamin Dabo, my cousin brother, say, hey, my dear, lovely, humble cousin Ebrima, I'm really proud of you, and please share the show so that it can read, because these are important. They have a lot of implications, because we cannot go on as a country like how we are going. When we have intellectuals like Ben and many other things, who has the moral fortitude to stand for the country. I think young people need to educate themselves, and the best way to argue your points and understand things, especially policies, is to read them. So let's help our own brothers. This book has been written, since 2010. People don't even know whether the book existed. And that's just some of the conundrum that we are. If we have a book that is so important as this book, I think governments should even as I said, rake into these books, and use it as a civic education to our people, so that they can understand, so that they can debate, so that nobody will come to you with fancy things and fancy programs and quotations like, I'm going to give you a mobile that you can sit at the corridor of the comfort of your house, and you water your gardens in the gardens and in the bushes and all those things. People so denigrate you to the extent that they can come with those, fancy stories and think you're going to believe in them. That shows how ill-informed we are as a people. So please get this book from Timbuktu, donate it to schools, 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies, so that we can encourage each other and bring the culture of education, not to rely, everybody, the whole section of communities, relying on individuals to tell them what to do, what not to do. Why can't we? Education now, or ignorance should be a choice. Is it a choice now? And if you choose to, even though people want us to remain ill-informed, so that they can keep riding on our back all the time. Ben, you said African challenge to developments are homegrown and exacerbated by our own cultures. To solve these challenges, we must find homegrown solutions, that may selectively make use of Western philosophies. Can you please elaborate on this? Because a lot of people will argue, because now it's become so romantic to say it is the West that underdeveloped us and all those things. So what that does sometimes, it masks the argument that, our problems are in our own hands. So I'm glad, to see this in your book, that, our developments are our challenges are to developments are homegrown, and we have to have a homegrown solution to it. That doesn't mean we don't have to blame others and all those things. But you mentioned Lee Guang in Singapore, and a book that I read once, and fantastic book, everything that you need in the Gambia, for example, is in that book. I only hope we have leaders that are going to make that book a Bible, and see, the Singaporean dream was once carved by Sadauda. I didn't think they pursued it. I didn't think they measured themselves like what you were saying, but this homegrown solution to our homegrown challenges, dilate on that and see, what we can do, and we can take it from there.
Ibrahim, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to provide overview for that question, because I'm sure time is against us. Let me put it this way: slavery ended over 400 years ago. African countries began having their independence 60 years ago. Now, political independence, I must underline political independence, social independence. Economic independence, social independence is a question mark. Now, the fact of the matter is, the colonizers have left the shores of our country 60 years ago. So we, as Africans, coming home as Gambians, the fact of the matter remains that we have had the opportunity to administer our internal matters. Yeah, we have had the opportunity to administer our internal matters, not losing sight of the fact that we are part and parcel of the global village. Yeah, so we do not exist in isolation or in what economists would refer to as autarky. Right? The fact of the matter is, we have a government, we elect people into offices, we administer our finances, we run our affairs. All decisions regarding economics, politics, and society are made by us. Now, over the course of the 60 years for which we have been independent, yeah, nobody outside of the Gambia has held some sort of magic whip to say put this or otherwise. Financially, economically, that may be the case to have an option. Let me just look at Mahathir of Malaysia. Mahathir of Malaysia, when he was Prime Minister, he said no to IMF and World Bank lending. That is years ago. Let us look at Tanzania. When Mafudi became president, what happened? He said that the resources to build our economy is in this country. And we saw the strides that he had registered during his brief stint until his demise, whether he was poisoned or untimely death, that way. So the fact of the matter is, we cannot continue to be the Western world for affairs, because we have had independence over 60 years ago. Individually, the West can still run Africa. Economic independence question mark, financial independence question, but how strategic are the various leaderships? Let us limit it to ECOWAS member countries, for example, or even expand it to the continent of Africa. Yeah, sub-Saharan trade. We recently had the launching of the Africa Common Free Trade Area. Yeah, let us see how that is going to pan out in the next 5-10 years. Whether we would see trade amongst African countries doubling or tripling. And I'm telling you now that's not going to happen. Why? Because we are not strategic. You see, development is about strategy. Economic development is about role sleeves. African we are not strategic, and we are ready to roll the sleeves because it calls for hard work. You mentioned Lee Kuan Yew. When Singapore had independence, Singapore is a tiny nation. In terms of land size, Gambia is way more than Singapore. Gambia is 7,000 square kilometers. Singapore, a fraction of that. Singapore has no natural resource. The water to drink, they don't have it, they import it from Malaysia. Until they visited a desalination plant. And I'm sure they have now gone beyond and overcome the challenge of drinking water.
Yeah, Ben, you're breaking seriously. The internet is just struggling there, and it's such a fantastic program. That's the level we are as a country. When we cannot even have discussions, about the future of our country because of the poor, very poor internet connections. And we will see if it cannot just come out, as how it should be, because those who are watching are saying it's breaking, and it is seriously breaking. We will try once more and see how it goes, but it is unfortunate. Adifatu, thank you, my sister, and I appreciate you too. What we want is for us to order this book. That's the whole essence, and support our own businesses, support our writers, support our intellectuals, who selflessly, put their time and energy and put pen to paper, so that we can be curious in our development, in our thinking, so that nobody will come, as I said, and pull the wool, in front of us, telling us all the bogus, because this country, this small country, Gambia, has climbed into a new height of retrogression, breathtaking level of corruption, and about the ignorance, of the younger generation that are coming now, how less equipped they are, and fighting each other unnecessarily, when you have the culprit, sitting on our heads, drumming there, and it's because we cannot see. When you are ignorant, that's what it is, and if you don't know your history, you will remain a child. And this book, what it does fantastically from 1975. It analyzed the policies, the failures, the strength, the loopholes of the generalization of policies, because what the politicians, how they are talking to us, at the meeting grounds, is how they put their policy, because they are skeletal, they will just outline these policies, fanciful words, but there's no basis there. There's no costing, some of them are not achievable and all those things. Some of them are so skeletal to the extent that when you read through it, and I read this and saw, some of the, I thought Vision 2020 is perfect, just to go through this book and saw the loopholes to the extent that I now denigrate it, Mr. Robert, go ahead, and we will see how the internet works. Also, if it cannot go, I think we will have to close and probably bring you back again when we have, is rain season time also, and that's also as a challenge in the Gambia. So, but go ahead, what you were explaining. The comparison with Singapore is so interesting, because we were almost at the same level with Singapore. The population, they have nothing at all, other than the port, the trading posts, and for British, the Chinese and the Malaysian people were fighting for that place. How they did it, how they progress now. You will not going to talk about Singapore and any African country. When you say Singapore, you talk about England, Japan, South Korea, and all those things. So that's a really, really good point, and I want you to elaborate more since you've done your studies. And when you're in Thailand, the Singaporean friend that came to you and ridicule Africa about corruption, I think I like that also. Just to elaborate how we should not accept corruption, because it's just going to ruin everything that we are building.
Yeah, the issue is economic development is about strategy. Economic development is about hard work, real sleeves, and passion. And Singapore knew that. Lee Kuan Yew, who is such a traitor and the leader of the Singaporean revolution, knew that to develop a country, they needed to be serious. And they dealt with the vices of corruption. In terms of corruption is equally rampant in Asia. Yeah, but Lee Kuan Yew knew that he had to deal with that problem. We see the Chinese are among the most corrupt people in the world. Anywhere they go to do business, we see how they do their businesses. Yeah, Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew is of Chinese origin, so he knows. Yeah, so they dealt with the challenge of corruption. I lived in Singapore, and I know that in Singapore, there's no compromise when it comes to corruption. Ministers have been fired and imprisoned. I know of a minister who was fired and imprisoned while serving his country just because he engaged in what could even argue that perhaps they were too strict in terms of labeling him as corrupt. Yeah. Now, Singapore also realized that perhaps the brightest and the best must pay services. He was remunerated. Yeah. So what did they do? They attracted the best and the brightest in terms of civil service. Yeah. But they equally for the best and the brightest to then engage in corruptive practices. Singapore committed to a development plan that spanned over 30 years, and they monitor and evaluate and review every year. But let me come to the most fundamental important thing that the Singaporeans got right, and that is education. It was one of the areas they decided to invest on from day one. From day one. Yeah, and talking of education alone, we can spend years discussing it in terms of what Singapore has done. Yeah, Singapore realized that the main reason why people go to school, the fundamental things that people want once they graduate is what they want: shelter, decent living, employment. And they try to put measures in place that address those things. Once you graduate from the University of Singapore or within Singaporean learning institutions, or say modern institutions. Once you graduate, employment opportunities are waiting for you. The opportunity to buy a house, yeah, a flat, whatever, one apartment, apartment is there for you. So they create the enabling environment. Always compare Singapore Housing Development Board to the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation of the Gambia. The Singapore Housing Development Board.
Then, is it possible for you to switch off the video and let the audio only come so that we can hear, because it's breaking seriously? If you can put the webcam, the video off, and the audio, let's try the audio only, so that at least we may not see you, but your voice will come. I think let's try that and see. If not, because it's breaking seriously and
yeah, I have gone audio and left camera. Why has it taken effect? Since then, okay, audio. Do I have to?
Yeah, just put the camera off. If you press stop camera, if you put the stop camera button where the camcorder kind of sign is, just stop cam, just press that and it will disable the camera.
Well, the option I have is to leave camera and go to audio, which I did. So the camera has a camera separate on my end. I don't know if it has on your end. Okay, let me look at it from here.
Yeah.
Stop my cam.
Yeah, once again, we are discussing The Plight of a Nation, a book that was written by a gentleman we have on the screen before. It is unfortunate the points that he is making, is such an important topic, discussions, because we are doing a cross-sectional analysis of policy development in the Gambia. Mr. Benjamin A. Robert, has myriad of qualifications, and he works in all over the place in the Gambia. He's been a tourism minister. He has been the director of Gambia Tourism Board at some point, 2 years and a half, two and a half years, but and he got qualifications around the place, and he works across investment and export promotion, business development, institution and corporate banking, risk management, credit risk analysis, and all those things. And now he's a consultant, a private consultant, working with Central Bank, because he worked with Standard Chartered Bank also in one of his CVs, also in Gaipa, where the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency, he worked also there, as a director. So he's talking from an informed point of view. It's just that unfortunately the internet, is messing about, and we can't hear anything that he is saying, because we cannot connect. The flow of what he is saying is being masked, because of the bad internet connection. But the whole point, what we are doing is so that we can order this book, in Timbuktu. When he comes back, if we have the chance, I'll ask him how much the book cost, and then, let's go and promote. I think Gambians need to do that a lot. Our businesses, our small businesses, let's take a little bit of trouble, so that we can support ourselves, our businesses here and there. Go and buy stuffs to them, because whatever they have stays in our communities. Whatever they have is plowed back to the Gambia one way or the other, and create and give that country the best, the most needed foreign exchange, that we have. And diaspora has been doing that a lot. But let's start, helping each other, and the whole purpose of buying this book is to create role models, so that young people emulate him also, and be writers and be readers and all those things all the time. So, institutions are there that are bereft of book, they don't have books. Our brothers are there. We keep telling them to go to school, but they don't have books, to read, and so this is one way, that's most of the time we'll bring those who write books, and bring them here, so that they can be other people can get motivated, and we can start writing about our stories. We can start writing about the three species that we have in the Gambia, so that even if that species vanishes, environmentalists, I mean, we can document those trees. We can have the breeds. We can have their pictures, the birds. Some of the animals that we had just went into thin air because we cannot ride them. We cannot ride. We don't have pictures and all those things. So those mistakes need to be avoided. So that's why this book is so important. If you can have the chance and read it, it will increase you a lot in terms of your understanding of Gambian policy development, because sometimes we just, get ourselves into discussions that we don't understand that much, and about the policies that have failed, what people have done, since Jawara time, since 1975, that's a long time, to 2020. So this is so important. I think, Ben is struggling, is coming again, but he's struggling. I think the best thing is we are going to kind of stop it here, because the internet is not allowing us, and the whole purpose is for us to engage each other, and people can know what we are saying. They can understand what we are saying, but if he comes back again, I think the best thing is to let him go, and probably, at a better time, we will bring Ben here, so that we can discuss more about this book, so that is so important, so yes, once again, what we're saying, we are corruption now is one of them, and our culture, our approach to things, and blindly, stupidly, we have our thieves. We say this man is a thief, but it's our thief. It's my brother, it's my family. But what that man or that woman is doing is destroying the generation of people that are coming. Sometimes we have to sit and blame ourselves. The people that we supported, the people that we are insulting each other for, those are the people that ransack into the coffers of that country. That's why women are dying, because of there's nothing in the hospitals, Yes, so yes, Ben is in the studio now with only the audio. Unfortunately, we cannot see his face, now. Ben, can you go ahead with what you were explaining and see how it goes with the audio only?
Yes, what I was trying to explain is to give some sort of juxtaposition. The Housing Development Board of Singapore and the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. Now, these are two entities that came into existence at the same time, with the same objective of addressing the housing challenges that both countries were experiencing. Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation was created to give Gambians the opportunity to own homes. Yeah, a very important welfare aspect of any citizen's life. Housing Development Board of Singapore was created to do the same thing. Now, both institutions were created around the same time, not more than a year or year and a half between them. But look at what Housing Development Board of Singapore has been able to achieve and what the Social Security has been able to achieve. Remember the point I made earlier, at the time of independence, both countries had their independence in the same year, 1965. At the time of independence, Gambia was richer than Singapore in terms of reserve requirements. Now, development of Singapore has been able to create over 2 million units of housing for its citizens. Yeah, Australian Housing Finance Corporation has not been able to on housing units. It's created in late 60s and 70s. I believe early 70s. Now let us ask ourselves that question. Why is that the case? Yeah, so it just goes to show you, and this is the point. The point is, economic development is not easy, but it is equally not difficult. What it requires is economic passion and commitment to what we have set ourselves to achieve. It's to be painstaking, but you have to be committed to passionate about it. And you have to be honest about it as well. I would tell you, since we're talking about Singapore, what the Singaporeans at the time, when they were conceptualized the economic development in Singapore, the most important thing in terms of economic development was one was meritocracy. Meritocracy. One. The other was pragmatism. And the third one was honesty. Now, what meritocracy speaks to? Meritocracy speaks to you doing the right thing, putting people in the rightful places. What people merit, you give it to them. What they don't merit, you don't give it to them.
I think, Ben, I think, the best thing is let's just, end here because the network is still struggling. Such when it comes to Singapore and Lee Guang, I'm always very, very, very interested in and fascinating story and development. But the internet the network is breaking to the extent that I think what I'm going to do is to see and make arrangements again when you're free so that we can try again because this is such an important thing that we need to come and talk about this book but what this book does it has a policy implication and it will give us an example from other areas the East Asian tigers and also Singaporeans and all those things that we were almost at the same level with them. We had our independence at the same place. It's a small country. They didn't have any natural resources at the beginning. These people are not better than us in terms of who they are. It's just that we just accept mismanagement. We just accept corruption. When our people steal, it is our people. He or she is a thief, but he's our thief. When somebody steals, they don't care about tribalism, because Gambia is one of the most, mixed place in terms of the rainbow nature of that country, the intermarriage and all those things. Leaders will come purposely just because of their benefit. They will just going to come and divide us into regions, into tribes, into religions and all those things, which is not true, which is false. It's just they are just masking their failures, but Singapore has gone through that. They have tribes also. You have Malays there, you have Indians there, you have Chinese there. Naturally, you will have tensions. But today, everybody is fall in line because the political leaders did what they have to do well. Let's not support people who are destroying the country. Let's not just fight ourselves just to cover the corruption and the failure, catastrophic failure that is happening in that country, in the Gambia. That is not because of Barrow, but that country is failing. We all know that. Why should we insult anybody? Only person that can remedy that country is the government that is in charge, because they have the economic prowess, they have the constitutional mandate, they have the power, they have the judiciary, they have the executive, the parliament is there to fall in line so that that country can have a little bit of decency, a little bit of normality, where women will not just die like flies, where babies who we are giving birth to take care of the country's future, just die because there's no electricity, there's no glove to take care of them. These are the problems at stake, and nobody can solve this other than the country, the government in place. That's why we need to hold the government accountable. Nobody is responsible for Gambia's failure other than the series of governments, that have been coming, and the one that is there is even worse. We are going to stop here. Thank you so much, our intellectual giant Ben, Mr. Robert, and for dignifying Gunjur Online with your presence. This is so important. Solely in another day we will come here and we can continue with our fantastic analysis on behalf of Gunjur Online and on behalf of our viewers. We are humbled and we cherished, and we really welcome your contribution. It's just unfortunate that the internet didn't allow us. Before we go, and we have one of the towering community activists, environmental activists, and activists, everything. Especially when it comes to Gunjur and Kombo and all those things, fighting for the environment. Mr. Bunama Jata, who just passed away last 3 hours ago. And Gunjur Online. Follow the Gunjur Online page, and we will update you with very, very, very sad day. Is a cousin to me. It's my cousin, and what is a son for everybody in Combo who is fighting, for the environment, fighting, for the fish meal companies, that are polluting our seas, fighting for everything, in that coastal areas. So we're going to be, Bunama will be missed, and may he so rest in peace once again. Thank you so much, our listeners. We are sorry it goes this way, but we will be back as always. Gunjur Online. On behalf of Gunjur Online, thank you. And thank you to Lamin Jammeh, our boss. Thank you so much.